It would seem as though.
Hi.
Good morning and welcome to season 2 of It.
Oh my God,
season
season
2. How about that?
Multiple
oh my
seasons.
God.
We're seasoned up.
I know. Can you believe it? Welcome to the podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and nothing.
Ooh, mostly nothing. And genuinely today, I have no idea.
You know, we made it. So I've actually got sheets and sheets of preparation that I did all this morning of things to talk about. And
Cute.
Since you're so good at just kind of going with the flow,
Yeah,
and riffing
winging
off
it.
Winging it.
Yeah. I'm into it.
I'm Vesta.
I'm older. I'm Annika. My birthday was officially, actually, for realsies yesterday. So I am old.
You are so old.
I've already
34.
made an appointment for the home. Can you stop throwing my age online for everybody to hear?
So I've been, I listen to a few podcasts.
Yeah.
Right? All queer.
Right.
Because
Why not?
Why listen to straight people? What do they got to say?
What do they got to say?
Right. But I have noticed that on many podcasts that when people introduce themselves, they're also saying their pronouns. And I was thinking, should we?
No, because if you want to.
I mean, but we're both she, her.
Yeah.
I specifically am she, her majesty.
Oh.
Yeah. And because if you want to be real official, I'd rather be called her majesty.
My pronouns are ew and don't talk to me. Those are my pronouns.
Why are you bothering me? Yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, very much that.
But yeah, it's been a week, man. It's been all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Aside from your birthday, which we now celebrated
multiple times.
Multiple times.
It's fine.
It was worth it. I mean, really, we needed to.
Yeah. Agreed.
I know that I usually do this later in the podcast, but I want to read a little letter that we got from our super fan, Lori Lee. By the way, Lori Lee, I can't wait to meet you. I hope I get to meet you someday.
Yeah.
I love your letters. I love that you listen to us.
And she wants to come visit Portland, so...
Then she needs to.
I know.
Absolutely.
Oh, I know her.
So, I got this 2 days ago. It says, love the birthday pod. Felt your pain when it came to having too much to drink on your 21st. Right before Astra shipped out, I had 2.5 bottles of wine. It did numb me, but I paid for it dearly. Yeah. Those Long Island iced teas are deceptive. I took my sister-in-law out for drinks and dinner before we went to a Three Dog Night concert. That's telling you about the date of that adventure. We thought an iced tea sounded tame enough. Not so much. My legs were noodles when I tried to stand.
Oof.
I liked going back to the in time, remembering what shows were on while I was a teenager. The fact that you were born the year Roseanne aired made me feel my age. The pod brought a smile to my face, remembering the shows my friends and I watched as teens. Happy Days, Chico and the Man, Sanford and Son. And Saturday mornings were all about American Bandstand, The Soul Train. And I'm going to stop right there because where I grew up, here in Oregon, in Oregon, we didn't have Soul Train.
Sad.
I know. It was mostly available on the East Coast.
Okay.
And, I mean, obviously some other places, but I had never even heard of it until I was late teens. And one of my friends was like, you've never heard of Soul Train? And I was like, well, it wasn't on here.
What am I going to do, go Google it?
Right. And so as soon as I got cable TV, I was then able, which by the way didn't exist.
Yeah.
I was able to watch Soul Train. I was like,
what? This is what I've been missing.
I'm wasting all these years watching all these white people on American Bandstand.
Yeah, how cute.
All these white children. Anyway, thanks for taking me back in time, making me feel both old and young at the same time. Old face, young heart. Happy birthday a day early. I hope you received your birthday card by now. She did.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just real bad.
I had to grin when Vesta was talking about being a frail Victorian child and the subject of clothing and toys for children. It brought up images of young Victorian children, male and female, dressed in pleated skirts, dresses, frilly blouses. Not sure at what age that changed, but at one time the young dressed similar. All for now, your loyal listener, Lori Lee. Well, thank you, Lori Lee.
I love it.
And right there with you, I, of course, watched Happy Days, Chico and the Man, all of those.
Yeah.
All of it.
Well, was there anything else on TV?
Well, here's the thing.
I mean, and that may sound like a read. That may sound like a read, but I genuinely don't know if there were other things on television at the same time.
We had technically 5 channels.
Okay.
And when I say 5, I mean total.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had the 3 major networks, ABC, CBS, NBC.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had PBS.
Okay.
And then we had 1 local channel.
Okay.
Which for us was Channel 12. Now, Channel 12 is where I watched all of the Saturday movies. Like the big MGM musicals, the oldies, the whatever.
So
the classics.
Yeah.
And then OPB, was Sesame Street, Electric Company. And in the evenings, movies. Now, what's really funny is one day, and I feel like I've told this story before, I may have, who cares? One day, my older sister and I stayed home sick from school, and we watched this show on PBS about venereal diseases.
Oh, no.
And one of the guys on there sang a little song about it.
Cute.
Yeah. And when my mother arrived home that day, we were both singing this song about venereal disease.
Did you tell your sister that's your future?
I did not. But
looking right into the crystal ball, bitch.
They also, on Channel 12, which was our local channel, tried this thing where they would show the same movie every night for a week.
Okay.
Because, back then you saw it when it was on or you didn't see it.
Right.
And you had to wait for summer reruns to catch, like if you missed an episode of your favorite show, you had to wait for the summer for the reruns. Right. Because it was all appointment television, man.
Yeah.
Well, I remember one week, and I don't remember what the movie was, but we watched it every single night.
How
so
funny.
all 5 nights we watched the exact same movie,
Yeah.
which now is nothing because, we watch movies over and over again.
All the time.
Not usually back to back to back to back,
Right.
but
right.
sometimes.
Well, girl, and like I think we talked about last week, I have a habit with shows more than movies to just start it over.
Yeah.
And Astra will roll her eyes at me and act like, ugh, why do you do that? Let's watch something new. But it's like, especially if it's a comfort show, ooh, girl, it's like my TV family. You know what I mean? And doing homework or doing something else, I just like to have, familiarity around, and I think it's fun and cute.
Absolutely.
And I'm not watching something like, Handmaid's Tale back to back. It's usually like, Modern Family or Superstore or Parks and Rec, something silly and cute, where there's not too much heaviness.
Well, and I told you last week that I had just rewatched all of The Good Place because it makes me happy.
Exactly. And I think in this day and age, in this economy, do what you do to make you happy. You know what I mean?
I do.
The pandemic...
And you got to get your happy where you can get your happy.
I feel like the pandemic really split that open for people. It's like, you just got to be happy. Like, the world's going to shut down. It's going to fall apart. Just do what makes you feel good.
So do what makes you feel good. And I know, again, going back to, like, my childhood, there was so little to choose from.
Right.
And again, you watched it when it came on. And I remember, like, Saturday nights were probably my favorite. Although American Fantasy on Saturday morning. I had to watch it every week. 11:30, 12:30 on ABC. But Saturday nights was the Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart, Carol Burnett show, and Fantasy Island.
Okay.
Well, and then Love Boat also got in there somewhere. And it was like, but Mary Tyler Moore and Bob Newhart...
Yeah.
That's where I learned about comedy.
I love that.
And Bob Newhart, oh my God. I loved him. And I remember my mother could not stand him. It was like, he's so dry. And that's what I love.
Yeah.
That super dry humor.
Yep.
It's like, I don't know. I just love that. And British humor, because I loved watching Monty Python, which we had to watch on Channel 10, which was PBS. And the Benny Hill Show, also silly British comedy.
Yeah.
So it was like either silly British comedy or... really dry,
British comedy for me sometimes is hit or miss because I don't love all of Monty Python. I think a lot.
Oh no, I don't love all of it. A lot of it is a miss.
Yeah, right. But what did I?
But it's like SNL. You watch
Agreed.
it, and it's like some of it you're like, oh my God, that's hilarious, and some of it you're like, who wrote this skit?
Yeah, they're very
and why?
And I feel like and I don't watch a lot of SNL. I never really have, but in each, I have watched episodes. In each episode, there are like this skit and maybe that skit are funny. But throughout the entirety of it, it is not very good, I think.
Well, and my thing is, and because I am a professional in the television industry.
Yes, right. Yeah. Big way.
But I always think, where's your editor? Because it feels to me like all of their skits go on too long.
Yeah.
It's like,
Agreed.
Okay, here's the punchline. Awesome, that's great. Oh, you're still going.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Why are you still going? Because that was a good place to stop. And I never understand that.
No. And I feel like there are some times when they make Like, I've always liked the movies that were based off SNL characters. You know, I always thought they were cheesy and stupid.
I can't say always. I've liked some of them.
I like most of them. I know that they're cheesy and stupid, but I think it fits better there. You know what I mean? I like it. I think it makes more sense.
The one I was like going, I'm going to hate this movie. I went into it knowing I was going to hate it.
Yeah.
Was Superstar.
Oh, okay. That's not what I thought you were going to say.
The Molly Shannon one.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like the character on the show. I thought it was stupid. And I was like, ugh. But I was being forced to watch it because we were at a friend's house. And everybody was like, let's watch this movie. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'll watch it, I guess. I love Molly Shannon.
Debbie Downer ass bitch.
But I love Molly Shannon.
Yeah. Same.
And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. I mean, I didn't make any protest, just in my head.
Yeah.
Because I'm a go-along kind of gal. Not really.
I was like, are you?
Are you? No. But it was hilarious. It was stupid, but hilarious.
Well, and I thought you were going to say, like, Night at the Roxbury. I thought you were going to say that.
Never seen it.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Because, again, it's Will Ferrell.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I don't like him.
And it's, again,
until this recent movie, Spirited, I was like, no.
He's mostly a miss for me in most things, because I don't think that it's acting when you play the same character in every single role. I don't think that. I think that you're just playing the Will Ferrell character. And good for you, I guess. Wait, you made money off it. Congratulations. Right. But I don't think that makes for a good actor.
Right, because in whatever that Ron Burgundy, the one, and
Anchorman,
the other one where he's the race car driver, and Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, and so
thank you.
It's all of the same character.
Yeah, exactly.
They all look a little different, but they're all the same character.
Yep,
so
agreed.
Not usually amused.
No.
The Blues Brothers, however, was a genius movie.
I love that, and I grew up watching Blues Brothers 2000. Right?
Which I also loved.
I adored that. So then when I saw the OG, I was like, but wait, there's more? Like, I didn't realize.
One that's based on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Because they're Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi were the Blues Brothers. They even had a hit song, you know.
Like, in real life?
Yeah.
Crazy, okay.
Yeah, and then they based a movie on it. The movie was brilliant.
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher tries to kill them multiple times in the movie. I love it.
That. I know.
I love Carrie
I just remember
Fisher.
seeing all the people that I recognized in the second one when I was a kid and being like, what? Like Erykah Badu's in it?
Erykah Badu.
Oh,
the
my
queen.
God.
I
know.
love Erykah.
So good.
She's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was going to talk about a little sad. A little sad. Just a little
Can't
sad.
wait. Happy birthday to me.
Well, because, we were talking last week about how we were binging, or you binged first, and then me, Wednesday.
Yeah.
The actress who played the original Wednesday on The Addams Family just passed.
No.
Lisa Loring. She was 64.
Wow.
Yeah, not very old.
What do we know?
They didn't say. It just said that she passed, like, this week. She was 64 years old. But she started playing Wednesday Addams when she was 5.
5?
5. I had no idea.
Me either.
So
I do love the OG, though.
Well, yeah. Because her little deadpan kind of delivery. Because, with most child actors, it tends to be too much.
Yep.
And she was perfect.
Well, and that's why Christina Ricci was so...
Perfect.
Perfect for
And
Wednesday.
Jenna Ortega, perfect.
Yes. It's so good.
So, yeah. And
so watch Wednesday if you haven't.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, we just can't push it enough. I am going to tell you, I do have, before I go on to the other person I was going to talk about, I have another recommendation.
What?
A movie that just premiered on Friday on Prime, Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Is Shotgun Wedding with J-Lo
and Josh
Duhamel.
Jamel, yeah.
Is that how you say his name?
I don't know.
Josh.
Ishmael. I don't know what his name is.
Call me Ishmael.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's also Cheech Marin.
Oh, I love her.
Jennifer Coolidge.
Love her.
Darcy Carden, who you know from The Good Place. She played Janet.
Oh.
She's also in A League of Their Own.
Yep, I love her.
Who else is in it? And it was hard to look directly at him, but Lenny Kravitz is in it.
It was hard to look
Poor thing. He's just the
so
dark lonely.
ugly.
I'm like, how is he still just as beautiful now as he was?
It really does hurt my feelings because he is
bit.
attractive. And let me tell you, quick little sidebar. Lived in San Francisco, was stalked by a guy, was a big deal, everyone knew, by a guy who was called the Lenny Kravitz of Sutter Street because he looked like Lenny Kravitz. And that was the one factor that I was like, well, I mean, if he's going to kidnap me.
He's a creepy stalker, but he's so cute.
I know, honestly.
Is he super cute?
He was super cute. But anyway, but yeah, I said, no, sir.
No,
I'm a child.
Don't stalk me. I don't want to be stalked.
Not anymore.
So we were discussing the other day the movie 16 Candles. Carol Cook, who played the grandma,
Yep.
who remember felt up Molly Ringwald,
Yeah.
the whole time had a big long dangling cigarette in her hand. She passed.
Okay.
Just minutes before her 99th birthday.
Holy shit! I was gonna be like, she had to. have
Yeah,
been
she was
100
old because she was old then, and that was in the 80s.
Yeah.
But here's what I love. I did not know this about her. I knew she was an actress who she got her start with Carol Burnett. Carol Burnett actually took her under her wing and kind of taught her what she knew.
Mm-hmm.
She hated Donald Trump. Hated him.
Okay.
And when somebody asked her like what should be done about him, she said, "Well, where's John Wilkes Booth when you need him?"
Love
And
that.
so she said, and then the Secret Service came to her house to talk to her because she made that statement publicly. And she said, well, they couldn't have been nicer. And I told them, I can't go to prison because the stripes are horizontal and they wouldn't look good on me. I was like, I love you.
I love that so
you,
much.
old lady. And the only other celebrity I want to talk about who passed was Cindy Williams from Laverne and Shirley. She played Shirley.
Yeah.
My personal connection with her, other than I love Laverne and Shirley, watched it all the time.
Yeah.
Again, same time. It was Laverne and Shirley, for those who don't know, was a spin-off of Happy Days.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it ran for like 400 years. And
Laverne and Shirley did?
it ran for a long time.
Let's see. Continue.
I want to say it ran for like between 8 and 10 years.
Whoa.
It ran for a long time. And then it was one of those that the last few seasons were like, kids, I think we're done. Maybe we should just let it go, let it rest.
Yeah.
I mean, when everybody in the cast moved from Milwaukee to LA, like the entire apartment building, Lenny, Squiggy,
Yeah.
all of them, it's like, you all moved to LA? Okay, that's kind of weird. But she was 75.
Wow, okay.
And I got the opportunity to meet her.
Okay.
I want to say 1990, because I believe I was Empress at the time. Anyway,
Yeah.
she and her husband came to Portland with the AIDS quilt.
Oh, wow.
And we were at University of Portland.
Okay.
And when the AIDS quilt traveled, and if you don't know anything about the AIDS quilt, where have you been?
Just look it up.
Just look it up because it's amazing. When it traveled, they would travel with multiple panels.
Right.
And so they would lay out, wherever they were, lay out as much as they could on the floor, and then they would be all around the walls.
Would it be the entire AIDS quilt?
Oh,
though?
gosh, no.
Because it's huge.
It's huge. When they laid it out at the Capitol,
Yeah.
it took the entire lawn.
Yeah.
And I mean, it goes on for quite a ways.
Is it? Yeah.
You know, so...
It's huge.
Anyway,
yeah.
it's huge. I don't know if it still is, but it was stored in San Francisco, and it hung like rugs on those little racks that you can pull out. And so you could look at it. You couldn't, of course, see all of it at any point. Anyway, but what would happen is they would travel, they would lay it out, they would hang many of the panels on the walls, so you could walk around and look at it. And if you're me, walk around, look at it, and weep.
Weep, right.
Well, and then the people who would travel with it, and it was always different people, would just read the names. And that's all they did.
Yeah.
And it would take, hours. And one of the readers was Cindy Williams, who was a big ally, supporter of the queer community. So, and back then...
It was a big deal.
Because then...
Because what year was it?
AIDS, 1990?
Yeah, okay.
And that was one of the most devastating years. It was kind of the peak of the AIDS.
Okay, so... Before we get into... Because I want to know, when did, AIDS officially become, an issue? And not for everyone, because obviously it was a queer issue before.
So, I first heard... And I'm going to just go from my own life.
That's fine.
I first heard of AIDS in 1981.
Okay.
Because there was an article in People magazine about this drag queen in New York, and her name was Brandy Alexander.
Oh, yeah.
And she was the first drag queen that... they knew had this strange disease that was affecting the queer community at that point. That's all. And it was at that point they called it GRID, which was gay-related immune deficiency. And obviously they changed that later. But they were also calling it the gay cancer, because at that point they'd only seen it in gay people.
Yeah.
And just a handful. But very shortly after that, it was everywhere. And it was, for a long time, they saw it mostly in the gay community. And then they started seeing it in some more prevalent in the black community. And then, but not nearly as much as in the gay community, and then they started seeing it in like IV drug users.
Yep.
Right, and so it filtered, and the way that the right wing looked at it, it was like, well, who cares? Mm-hmm. It's killing all these people we don't care about.
It's God's wrath. You know what I mean?
And a lot of people actually said shit like that. That was like, it's God's punishment for your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. You're a drug dealer. You're a drug addict. You're a queer. Who cares? Mm-hmm. Who cares? And so it went from hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands very quickly. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until Rock Hudson came out as having AIDS right before he died, minutes before he died, that Ronald Reagan, who was president, boo,
you whore,
was like, I guess we should do something, because they weren't doing anything.
Yeah,
they were not doing anything financially. They weren't trying to do any kind of
kind of
help issues or whatever. They weren't trying to do anything to help the folks who were affected by it. And in the hospitals, I was just talking about this the other day. When I went to see, I know for me, I went to see one of my friends because he had asked if I'd come to the hospital and cut his hair. And I was like, sure. So I went to do that, and they were like, oh, you have to put on the whole, basically the hazmat suit, you have to mask and gown. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I'm just cutting his hair.
Yeah.
But they were still, so many people were still completely ignorant of what caused it. And there are some really, really good movies out from early days of the AIDS epidemic. An Early Frost is a really good one because it gets most of the things right.
Okay.
Longtime Companion, if you can get through it, because I weep and weep and weep at that movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, so really towards 90, 91, 92 was kind of the peak when I was going to funerals every weekend.
Yeah, Jesus.
And and then they started doing what they called the cocktail, which really was amazing and life-saving, but it was at the same time overwhelming because you had to take this whole cocktail of pills.
Yeah.
And now, of course, they've got it streamlined to where most people who are living with it are undetectable.
Yeah.
And so...
And if you are undetectable, you cannot transmit it.
Correct.
Just say. I mean, correct. I know you know, but for the people at home, if you are undetectable, then you cannot transmit HIV.
Right. And, and so they also, of course, now have drugs to keep you from even getting it, like PrEP.
Yes. And I watched this documentary for class once, and it was about sexuality, and they talked about how if you are a gay male specifically and you are sexually active, whether or not you think you're having sex with somebody who has HIV or whatever, or you're being safe, everyone should go be on PrEP. Lots of people should be on PrEP. If you're having sex with people in a way where you can contract HIV, then you should be on PrEP.
But only if you were assigned male at birth.
Yes.
Right, because they do say that on the commercials for it, that it's not for everyone.
No, you have to be like trans women or assigned male at birth people. Yeah. Those are the only people who, for whatever reason.
But there are a couple others that are also now
work for.
And I don't remember the names of them because, fortunately, I don't have to worry about that. Yeah. So that has not been my journey. Although, I again had so many friends and whatever that there was that whole survivor's guilt. It's like when all your friends are dropping dead, it's like, oh my God, am I next? Am I, but
I know.
No,
I couldn't. What I was gonna say. Oh, this is sidebar, but you were talking about Laverne and Shirley, so I looked it up.
Yes.
It started in January of 1976 and went until May of 1983, so about 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the first 6 years, it was really good.
And how long was Happy Days on for? Because they both were Happy Days.
More than 10 years. And it was one that should have ended. Towards the end, it got so silly. And Ron Howard had left.
11 seasons.
11 seasons.
So were Laverne and Shirley in Happy Days?
Yes. There's an episode where Fonzie is going to get a date for Richie, and it's Laverne and Shirley, and they go on a double date, and their characters, it's really funny because their characters they sound like they're from Jersey, even though they're supposed to be from Milwaukee, and they're these kind of trashy, women who both seem like they're kind of, more sexually, promiscuous than because on the series they put off like they were both virgins.
Yeah.
And Shirley was a really goody-goody, and Laverne was kind of the more bad girl. But it was like their first showing on Happy Days. No, they were not. But it was very funny.
I want to know how long they were on Happy Days.
Mork and... Oh, they weren't. They just did, I think, 2 episodes.
Oh, a couple. Okay.
And then... But after they did... Because they were only supposed to be a one and done.
Sure.
But they were so popular that everyone's like, oh, God, we want to see more of that.
Yeah. I love it.
Mork and Mindy was also a spinoff of Happy Days.
Really?
Yes, because as it often happened in the 50s, an alien showed up at your house.
Oh, that explains the 50s, girl. Let me tell you what.
Right. And yes. It was... Because I remember when that happened, I was like, what on earth?
Silly goofy.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the phrase "jump the shark" comes from Happy Days. When they say that, really, this has now jumped the shark, which means it's gone
off the rails.
It needs to stop.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because there was an episode where Fonzie literally jumps a shark on water skis.
Okay.
And it was like, really? What? Anyway. But that's because it's now a very popular phrase in the, culture, jump the shark, because they'll be, ooh, that has jumped the shark.
That is funny. Speaking of that, though, I just watched the first Scream. Right, from 1996. And Fonzie is the principal.
Yes, he sure is.
He is a crazy person.
Until he isn't.
I know. And it's funny that he's scolding boys who are, wearing the ghost face mask, why are you doing this? And he has, these long fucking shears in his hand. He's, snapping them at them and saying how he's going to cut their shirts off and calling them little, piss ants and shit. I was all, I love you, Fonzie. You're great. I know it's not his name.
And now he's on some other show. What's it called? Barry. Is it just called Barry? I think it's just called Barry.
Oh, yeah, he's in Barry with other people.
Sure, with the other people. The others.
Yep.
As they've been known. The others.
Honestly.
The others. Watch that movie. It's so good. I love that movie.
I won't talk about it.
I kind of talk about it.
It's a core memory for me.
So, we kind of started here a year ago, but February, Black History Month.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I wanted to talk about I want to talk about the history of Black History Month.
Yeah.
It started in 1926 when it was just Negro Week.
Oh, good.
And it was specifically to acknowledge the contribution to history and culture by the black community.
Wait, and this was 1926?
1926. Which I'm sure it started in the black community because, white people were going, we just really need to celebrate some black people.
Well, it's like Juneteenth to the black community, where they understood, but no one else.
Right, white people are like, what is this Juneteenth stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it has now been adapted by Canada, the UK, Germany, and the Netherlands. They all have Black History Month.
Okay.
Not enough countries.
No.
But, some countries actually have black people.
No. See, I don't think that's true.
And so they don't really need to. So.
Right.
But, yeah, it just started as a week, and it grew over the years to be Black History Month. And one of the jokes that I think is funny, I hear often told by black comedians is, of course, it's the shortest month of the year.
Yep.
Whatever. But here we are. And then I hear idiot white people, why don't we have White History Month? It's because the rest of the year, it's like all children get taught in school is white history.
Well,
or the whitewashing
and
of history.
Very androcentric. It's very white man history.
Yes.
Which white men are boring.
Yeah. So, but there's some people I want to talk about who are important people to know in Black history. The first one I want is Bessie Coleman, who was the first black female pilot.
Oh, right. Okay.
So she, when her brother came back from World War I, she was so wrapped up in him, he would tell her stories of flying and all that, and she thought that sounded amazing and awesome. It's like, I want to do it. So she tried to enroll in every single flight school that was anywhere near her, and they all, of course, said no because A, she was black, and B, she was a woman. And someone else found out that she was trying to do this and said, go to France.
Yep.
Because they will let you do this in France. And, of course, where is anybody going to get the kind of money at that time to just go to France?
Yeah.
But she did. She managed to do it. She studied in France, and she became so good at it that she did air shows, and she would do like barrel rolls and wing walking.
Oh, nothing.
Yeah, but what was cool is she refused to do any of the shows that had separate entrances where like whites come through this one and blacks come through this one. And so she was like, nope, I won't do those. And so she was very selective. She did end up dying in a plane crash when she was doing stunts. But one of the things that her quotes, which I love, was the air is the only place free from prejudice.
Oh,
I love that.
Yeah. So here's the other thing. She was a black woman and she was also Native American.
Yes.
So good on you, girl. But also, she didn't die in the plane crash. The plane did a doo-doo-doo when she wasn't wearing a seatbelt and she fell out of the plane. And then it crashed and the other person in the plane died. But yeah, that's like more upsetting to me than just a plane crash.
Fact
But
that she fell out of the plane.
Yes.
Well, she wasn't wearing a seatbelt because she would do these stunts.
Yeah. Horrifying though.
But you know what? In the end of the day, she was doing what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
And she knew the risks involved.
Yeah.
So,
I get that.
The second person I want to talk about was Ida B. Wells.
Oh, yes.
She was born in Mississippi in 1862, which was the year before the Emancipation Proclamation was signed.
Yeah.
But she wrote about, lived in Tennessee, and she wrote about discrimination. Yeah. And she had her own paper. She had a paper that she co-owned, and she would write about how white people treated black people.
Yep.
And of course, white people didn't all like that. And so they came and destroyed her printing press.
Yep.
And so she then up and moved to New York, where she continued writing and wrote a lot of very important things about that struggle, the struggle of discrimination in the black community and prejudice and.
Well, and she was born in 1962, which was 3 years before the slavery was technically abolished.
Right.
Or the Civil War ended.
Right. Well, because it was signed in 1963 and then ended in 1965.
Right. And what's interesting is that what she's best known for is she started an anti-lynching crusade across the United States in the 1890s. Which is
amazing.
Yeah, and being a woman and being black. But she's also one of the founders of the NAACP.
Oh. I did not see that.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Because I was literally looking at a site that was called Important People in Black History That You Need to Know.
Yeah.
And it was people that are, this specific site was people that they're trying to get them to teach kids in school about.
Yeah.
Because, it's always the same handful of folks that get taught about. It's like, we know about Ruby Bridges and Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. But could we learn about some other... Those are not the only black people who made history.
No.
One of the ones who I already knew about, because we read about her in we have a book called Little Leaders.
Okay.
And it's just specifically women... And in this one book that we have, it's because we have two of them, it's black women who were the first person to do something, who made history. And Mae Jemison was the first black female astronaut, which didn't happen as long ago as we might hope it had. So, but before her 30th birthday, listen to this. Before her 30th birthday, she had 2 undergraduate degrees, a medical degree, 2 years in the Peace Corps, and was a medical officer in Africa, and was selected by NASA to join the astronaut training program. So a real slacker.
Yeah, so she was just a big old dummy.
Yeah, just lazy and stupid. It's like by 30 she had done more than most people have done their entire life.
Yeah.
So good on you, babe.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired just looking at all the things she did by the time she was 30, and I'm twice her age.
Yeah, and 1992 was when she did this. When she went to orbit.
She was in an 8-day flight on Endeavour.
Crazy.
Which established her as the first U.S. black female astronaut. Which really, 92, I mean, you think about it, that really wasn't that long ago for her to be the first black female astronaut.
To do kind of a thing in general.
U.S.
Right, exactly.
Which says to me that there were others just not here.
Right, of course. That would make sense. So one of her quotes, I love, which really exemplifies who she is, says, "Never be limited by other people's imagination. Never limit others because of your own limited imagination." And I'm like,
that.
she did literally fucking everything. So, she obviously was not limited by other
No,
people's
and I
imagination.
love that. I love that she was just like, oh, I can do that.
No, I could do that. Why not?
What? Medical degree? Sure.
What, like it's
NASA?
hard?
Sure. Right. You got into Harvard? What? Like it's hard? One of the other things that I saw, which I'm super excited about, because now I'm going to go through and watch some more of these movies. There is if you search it this way, 32 movies about Black history that should be on your must-watch list. I know it's a big mouthful, but that was the actual article that I read, and it has links to all these different movies, some of which I've seen, and some of which I'm anxious to see.
Is it a women's health article?
No, but it's just 32 movies about Black history that should be on your must-watch list.
Okay.
The first one, and I love the title, is That Black Enough for You? And it's a documentary about the history of black film.
Okay.
There's one called Ailey, which is about Alvin Ailey, who very famous dancer.
Mm-hmm.
Which can't wait. I can't wait to see that. Right. Now, one that I have seen is called The Summer of Soul, and it is a documentary about this music festival that happened in 1969 that was just kind of overshadowed because of Woodstock. But this was a huge music festival, mostly black artists.
Okay.
And if you watch it, it's great because there's so many people on there that, of course, you've heard of, like Gladys Knight and different people. But there's also people on there you've never heard, or at least I had never heard of, who are lesser known acts, who were still part of this amazing, I want to say it was a 3-day music festival.
Okay.
But it's been a while since I watched it.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend watching it. It's so good.
Yeah.
There's one called In Our Mother's Gardens, and it's about the very complicated relationships between mothers and daughters.
Yeah.
And so I'm anxious to see that. It's based on, or inspired by, because it's a documentary, but it's inspired by a book by Alice Walker, who wrote The Color Purple, called, and I believe it's called the same name. It's like In My Mother's Garden or In Our Mother's Gardens. Yeah. Maya Angelou and Still I Rise.
Can't wait.
I've seen that one. Maya, amazing.
I've
And I've read several of her books. I can't even say most because she has like 5,000 of them. But I've read several of her books. I read 3 of her autobiographies, and I want to say she has 5.
Yeah.
I think that's right. But I've read 3 of them, and her life, crazy. I mean, she was another woman who did everything.
Yeah.
And I did things I had no idea. I mean, I knew, obviously, she was a writer.
Yeah.
I knew she was a poet. I knew she did some acting. But this is a woman who started with nothing. And at a very young age, she was sexually molested. And
didn't speak, right?
Well, she was sexually molested, and she named the person who did it to her, and he was then killed.
Oh, right.
By a family member. And she then got it into her head that her words had killed this man.
Yeah.
And so she said she would never speak again. And she didn't speak for a couple of years.
Which is insane.
I can barely not speak for a couple of minutes.
I know.
So
Let's play the quiet game. Okay, done.
I know. I lose. Sorry. But she didn't speak for a couple of years, and it wasn't until one of her teachers said to her, because she read all the time and she wrote and whatever, and the teacher said to her, you obviously don't really love poetry. And she was very upset. And it was like, of course she loved poetry. And the teacher's like, you can't really love poetry unless you can also speak it, because most of the beauty of poetry is being able to read it and having other people hear it. And that was what kind of got her to start talking again.
I love that, yeah.
Yeah. But she was, after when she was a little girl, she was shipped off to live with her grandma in Stamps, Arkansas. She and her brother were literally little kids put on a train and shipped across country by themselves. Little tags on their jacket saying where they were going. Can you imagine? No, and they get to Stamps, Arkansas, which is nowhere, nothing, and live with grandma in her little teeny house. And grandma's very, very strict religious. And I mean, it's like, I remember one of the stories was, she said she was talking to a friend, and as a little girl, and she was like, oh, by the way, blah, 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 blah. And her grandma came out and was furious with her. It was like, and she couldn't understand why she was mad.
Yeah.
It was like, because she said something about, like, was being disrespectful to the Lord or whatever. It's like, how?
Yeah.
Because Jesus is the way, and you said, by the way, I was like, really, Grandma? Calm down.
All right, girl.
But then she went on to dance and sing on Broadway.
Right. So again, someone who's never done anything.
Right. Yeah,
Just another big old dummy.
I know. Poor thing.
I know.
Interesting side note was she was up to be the understudy for Pearl Bailey for the all-black cast of Hello, Dolly.
Okay.
And Pearl Bailey was like, I don't want that ugly girl to be my understudy. Mm-hmm. Years later, Pearl Bailey asked her to come speak at something for her, and once Maya became super famous,
right? Of course.
She was like, I want her to, and being Maya Angelou, she went and did it, and it was like, I know that what she, I know she doesn't remember that it was me who she was like, ooh, I don't want that ugly girl to be my understudy.
Yeah,
but she rose above all that mess.
Because still I rise.
Yes,
girl.
Yes.
Well, and what's interesting to me is, a huge part of what I'm studying has to do with critical race theory. It involves lots of racial and ethnic relations. And so most of the people that we mentioned, so like Ida B. Wells, obviously Maya Angelou, even Mae Jemison was talked about when it had to do with different races. And like, I think I learned most about her during like ethnic and racial relations. But all of them are a part of like sociological, not theory or women gender studies, but they're just living their lives and doing what they did is a huge part of my curriculum, Right. And it makes me think that all these women that obviously were smart and talented and lived their life to the fullest, were obviously going to be like feminist icons. But when I think about how many black women, just by their existence and like surviving in this world, are feminists or are fighting for equality. Again, these women did amazing, huge things. But even if there was just average, everyday woman, she's still more of a feminist than any white woman would ever be. Do you know what I mean?
Just by doing what they do.
Just by existing. Because white women, more often than not, will hold up their race opposed to their gender. So they will uphold white men over other women, marginalized other women. And so, but black women, oftentimes, because they know what it's like to be, the double bind of being oppressed because you're a woman and being oppressed because you're black, on top of maybe being queer or disabled or whatever. But they, oppression sees oppression. So like if you met a queer person, you would see that they are also oppressed. Unlike white women, their oppression comes from white men. And all they do is, for the longest time, beg for scraps from white men. You know what I mean? Wanted to make it to the same status as white men, but didn't want to bring other women with them. So it is interesting, Black History Month to me, just because these women are more iconic than most white women. And when it comes to sociological and humanities.
Well, and one of the people I think of, like just right off the top of my head, is Diane Carroll. Because Diane Carroll, I'm sure even some younger people probably know her from other things. She was in Dynasty. Gorgeous, gorgeous woman. But legendary because she was the first black woman to be the lead in a TV show.
Okay. Wow.
She was in a TV show called Julia, where she played a nurse and a single mother. And this was in the late 60s, I think. But she was the first black woman to have her own show.
Yeah.
Which is like...
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously other black women on television.
You said it was the late 60s?
I think so.
I mean, that would align with, like, civil rights, you know?
Yeah. And, of course, people were all mad about it, too.
Yeah, why not?
It was like, well, what? So a black woman shouldn't have their own TV show?
Oh,
what seems to be the problem?
That's it, though, right? Like, they thought that they should not. Why do they get to?
Well, what's interesting to me, and I know we've talked about this before, is it wasn't until it, like, really was brought to my attention as, like, television, all of my growing up years, was super racist because it was all white people. And yes, oh wait, there's an Asian character, but she's a servant. Oh, there's a black lady, but she's a servant.
She's the
there's
help,
or look, they walked by in the background. It's like that was it. And it wasn't until, and even up through like Friends, and we've talked about this, like all my white friends.
Yeah.
It's like you live in New York and you don't know any people who aren't white.
Exactly. And you don't ever see many people who aren't white in the show. Which,
no.
Even when they're out and about doing things.
No.
And like, you live in fucking New York City. Like, who did this?
Right. Right. So the other movies on my list, and there's 32, and I only put a few on here. Toni Morrison.
Okay, yep.
The Pieces I Am. Also watched it. Toni Morrison. Love her. If you've never read any Toni Morrison, I wholeheartedly recommend her. The Bluest Eye is not the first thing I read of hers, but I was watching the Chilling Tales of Sabrina, and the one character I don't remember, other than Sabrina, I remember none of their names. The girl who was her friend, the black girl, who I don't remember. Like I said, I don't remember any of their names. Was in trouble in school because she was doing her report on the book The Bluest Eye.
Oh, yep.
And they're like, oh, that book has been banned and blah, blah, blah. And come to find out, so I was like, oh, is that a real book? And obviously it's Toni Morrison's a real book. And it's really been banned in lots of places.
Okay.
Why? Because it talks about the horrible things that happen to black people, especially black women. And it's like, oh, well.
And people
we certainly don't. We certainly, as white people, don't want to hear that.
No.
Now, one I've not watched yet, but I keep meaning to, is The Life and Death of Marsha P. Johnson. And for those of you who don't know who Marsha P. is, she is one of the people who is credited with the beginning of the gay rights movement. Now, there is, of course, speculation about whether or not she really threw the first brick at Stonewall. She was there, so it doesn't matter if she threw the first brick. She was there, and she was one that was like fucking up the cops.
Yep.
And Sylvia Rivera was also part of that. So 2 trans women of color.
Yep.
But Marsha P. then one day in the early 90s, I think it was, in the 90s, just disappeared.
Yeah.
And then her body was found in the Hudson River. And people think there's the whole speculation that she was murdered because it's not like she would have jumped in the river.
No.
She was this woman who lived most of her life kind of in poverty, but she also lived her life in service of the queer community.
Yeah.
So
I know. Because I think I've watched that documentary.
Have you?
Yeah, because Sylvia Rivera's in it, and she's older, and she's houseless, and it's really sad, but it goes to show you how people think and have treated queer people, especially trans women and trans women of color, throughout history.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting to me that all these years later, she's often celebrated. Whereas when she was out there in the trenches making a difference, people didn't want her there.
No.
Because the queer revolution was supposed to look like it was mostly pretty white
Gay
boys.
liberation. It was called the Gay Liberation Movement for a while,
Yeah. But it was like the first march, which was in 1970, which wasn't even supposed to be a march. It was just supposed to be a walk from one place to the next. And it was going to end in a park, which I don't remember, Christopher Street.
Yeah.
Is where it started, I think. It ended anyway, by the time they got there, they'd picked up so many people along the way. Yeah. But one of the people who was speaking was Marsha P. Johnson, and people didn't want to hear her speak because they felt that she did not represent them well, because this was this poor black woman who was a trans woman, and
we're gay whites,
and we're all white and gay and cute and young and pretty and ugh.
So we don't want to hear the person who's like very marginalized.
No, God no.
Thanks for throwing the break, bitch, but now go back to where you belong.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm glad you got it started. We'll take it from here.
Yeah, after you did everything.
Yeah, you did all the hard part, but now we're gonna be cute.
Yeah.
So. And then one of the other ones that's on the list, I'm so glad it was on the list, is Paris is Burning.
I love Paris.
And I know that those of you who listen to us have heard us talk about Pose about 1 million times. Well, Pose is inspired by the movie Paris is Burning. And Paris is Burning is a documentary about the ballroom scene in New York in the late 80s
Yep.
And you not only get to kind of see the ballroom scene, which is amazing,
Yeah.
but you also get to see what the lives were like of these people outside of the ballroom.
Yeah.
You know, because there was several of them were sex workers.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, several of them were houseless. So, you know, it's just you see their lives, and some of them are still thriving today, which I love.
Same.
Some of them became legends of the ball scene,
Yeah.
which I love that.
And so many of the characters in Pose are just like complete replicas of
Yes.
what.
Well, also, and they do use some of the names
Yeah.
of the people
Yeah.
who were the originators of the ballroom scene.
Mm-hmm.
And now, what's probably confusing to some people is when you hear ballroom, you probably think of like ballroom dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's not that.
No.
It
Do you know
is-
voguing? Like Madonna's voguing? Well, the ballroom scene started that, you know?
Right. And then
Mhm.
Madonna was like, "Oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I'll make it more popular because I'm Madonna."
And they had, okay, so basically it was like a competition between houses of people,
Yes.
right? So there was like House of Evangelista versus the House of Abundance. That's from Pose, but you get the point.
Right.
And it would be like, people would go, they would have it's like Winter Wonderland is the theme, and everyone would don their best like Wonderland garb and put on a little like strut and walk, and they would get scored like 10, 10, 9, 10. And whoever won a trophy. Sometimes there was like cash money to win, but it was all about like status and, you know, gaining notoriety for your house, becoming known within the community.
Right.
And so that's why they are legendary people, because they curated these houses of like beautiful young queers essentially to
Yes. And a lot of trans women, a lot
Yeah.
of trans people of color.
well, and so
Mostly.
predominantly it was for people of color. It was the Black community and like the Latinx community, you know, like it was all of that. There were white people involved, but it was few and far between. It
Yeah.
wasn't everybody. It wasn't white. And there's a scene in Pose where they say like, oh, well, we're not going to compete with them because they have a white in tow, right? Like they have someone who's white on their team, and they're all, fuck you, whatever. We're still going to compete. But yeah, it was more centered around queerness and being marginalized because of race and queerness, and so and everyone was queer. Most people were of color, so. It is really good. It gives you insight, especially if you're a white person that you probably don't have. Even if you are a person of color, you may not know about this because it is such deeply rooted in queer history, opposed to just necessarily Black history. Mm-hmm.
And a couple of the house, like the House of LaBeija, is still around.
Yes.
And if you watch the show Legendary
Yeah.
on
Okay.
HBO,
Yep.
you see some of these houses who are still in existence,
Yeah.
who are doing some ballroom stuff. Some,
Yeah.
you know, they're doing the different challenges. Well, you know, but they had challenges that were like realness. It was like
Yeah.
basically how beautiful you were, or
Okay, yeah, that's legendary is what I was thinking of. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or they had the category where I was like, you know, where it was just for men or
Yeah.
people who appeared, you know, like performed as men.
Yeah.
You know, or to be like the most masculine or the most
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yeah.
so, and that stuff still exists today.
Well, and you should watch it because like Keke Palmer has been a judge.
Oh, I've watched like season 1 of Legendary.
Okay, Megan the Stallion is a judge.
And again, as I discussed yesterday,
Love her.
love Megan Thee Stallion. First of all, she's gorgeous.
Yes. Yes.
But she's also super talented. And I love Jamila Jamil.
Jamila
is one of the...
Leomi Meldondo, who was originally a part of the ballroom scene. She's like
Right.
one of the
who
legendary
is
queens.
mostly just known by her first name.
Leomi, yeah.
Leomi.
Deshaun Wesley, he's the host. He's a beautiful man. And then Law Roach, who's also a part of the ballroom scene. He's a beautiful, beautiful man as well.
Well, yeah, I haven't seen any ugly people on the...
Of course not, right? But I love it too because the judges talk shit. Like there's a clip that goes around the internet where Law Roach in his long ass weave says, I want to disagree with Compton Barbie, and he's talking about Keke Palmer, and it fucking kills me. Like the shade amongst even the judges is
Compton
real.
Barbie.
I love it.
How rude.
I know.
And one of the things from Pose that is an actual storyline directly taken from one of the people in Paris is Burning is in Pose, one of the characters, why am I blanking on her name?
Electra?
Oh, yeah, Electra.
Yeah.
When she was a sex worker.
Mm-hmm.
One of the guys she was with dies.
Mm-hmm. Not by her hand. She
not
didn't do it.
he just died.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew that if she had called the police or whatever, they would have arrested her and she'd have gone to prison.
Yeah.
And so instead, they hide the body
Mm-hmm.
in a trunk in her apartment.
Yep.
Well, Dorian Corey, who is one of the main characters in Paris is Burning, after she died and they went to clean out her apartment, they found the mummified remains of her ex in a trunk.
That's what you do.
Well, a suitcase, actually, in her closet. It had been there forever.
Yep.
And it's just like...
And I love it too, because if you in that scene in Pose where that happens, and then they're doing the thing and like wrapping him up, it is brilliant to me. They get like the lie, and they like wrap him in like vinyl essentially, and sew him shut, like, and then put him in the trunk. I was all, look at you, crazy queers! I'm into it.
Right.
But what else are you gonna do?
And then send him floating away on the Hudson Bay.
Exactly.
Well,
I know.
You know, the fact that there was not foul play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think probably one of the weird things would be that his family never knew what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Toodaloo.
You know,
Sorry
he was
about it.
also doing stuff that got him, you know, he was doing dangerous
You know what?
stuff.
He fucked around, and
he found out. He
You know?
sure shit did. Oh my God.
Yes, girl.
So, yeah, that should be like, get you started.
Yeah.
Watch some stuff.
Yep.
Go back and read some stuff. Do whatever. Look at... Really, listen.
Googletron
is free.
Yes, girl. And I feel like you should... Specifically, you should always change your life to be better and know better and do better. But, you know, if we're in Black History Month, then go watch things about Black folk, made by Black folk. Go read books by Black authors. And not just, like, books about their true life. Go read, like, Black sci-fi. Go read Black fantasy. Go read things.
Oh my God, Black sci-fi?
Yes.
Does that exist?
Girl, let me tell you, I tell everyone to read Octavia Butler.
Well, I bring it up because, you know, my good friend, Maria Webster.
Yes, ma'am.
Next Tuesday is having the launch of her book.
Auntie Maria.
And it's called Consecrated Ground?
I believe so, yeah.
Now, it's under a pen name of Virginia Black.
Yes.
But local, queer, you know...
Black woman.
Who is a singer-songwriter.
Yep.
And now an author. Very excited. And by the way, she's one of the smartest people I know.
And just one of the best people.
She's also one of the best people
honestly,
I know.
yes.
So she's having a little launch party Tuesday for her book. But you can find it on the interwebs because you can buy it on Amazon. Or you can go to... If you look it up, you can also find it... you can buy it from the publisher directly.
Yeah.
And if you go on my Facebook page, you will find a link to it.
Yeah.
That I put in there a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
we'll just post it again.
So I will post it again. So support.
Yeah. Support our people, bitch.
Something funny that is different from what we're talking about. But one of the things I learned when I was reading all of the things to make myself a better person was about the only way true change comes along is by sitting in your discomfort and actually learning something. Well, I was listening to Delta Works podcast yesterday where she was interviewing Mrs. Kasha Davis, who I love. And instead of saying sitting in your discomfort, Mrs. Kasha Davis likes to say you have to sit in your own shitty diaper until you can change it.
Yeah.
And I love that.
That's better.
And one of the things, you know how people always say the phrase, when you know better, you do better. I heard it said best the other day, which is when you know better, it is your responsibility to do better.
Yes.
Because a lot of people know better and still don't do better.
Oh, yeah.
But when you know better, it is your responsibility to do better. And I love that.
Yes. And it's true.
It is true.
Yeah.
And it's like, how else is change going to come? And, you know, you can use all the little sticker to be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
Well, then do it.
Yeah, girl.
Then be the change.
And here's the thing. You can be ignorant to things. But once you learn, if you don't change your behavior based on what you learn, then you're just stupid. You know what I mean? You're just being dumb. You're not... It's not just ignorance anymore because you know better. Right. Ignorance is just like a state of being, right? Like you don't know something. But if you do know something and you continue to act in an asshat behavior, then you're dumb and a bad person. You know?
Yeah. Well, because if you choose to just go along and never do what... You know, sometimes it requires some of the hard work.
Agreed.
Sometimes it requires ruffling some feathers. Sometimes it requires getting uncomfortable and sitting in a discomfort that you may not want to do, but too bad.
Nope.
You know, and sometimes it requires that you say something to a friend that makes them uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because they've said something fucked up and you have to go, nope, this is why that's not okay.
And let me tell you one thing that, I know we're almost out of time, but I know that we're always taught, like, oh, respect your elders, right? And again, that was pushed on me as a child.
Sure, of course.
No, the older I got, and this is even in my teen years, I said, nor, I'm not going to respect anybody based on their age, because half the time, if you are an older person, you still are behaving shitty, that means you lived through so much shit, every civil rights movement, and you've learned fucking nothing. Why should I respect you because you're ignorant? I don't think that people deserve respect based on age.
No.
I think that respect is earned no matter who you are. And that is, like, my generation down. Like, I don't care how old you are. I don't care that you think you deserve my respect. You need to prove to me, and I'll be civil to you, but if you're a shitty person, then I'm not going to respect you for that.
No, of course not. Well, and I actually have used that phrase that I learned from you, which is, you know, absolutely, if you have lived through all of the civil movements and have learned nothing, that's willful ignorance.
Oh, yes. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do better.
Do better. Be better.
Be better. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And, well, that brings us to the end of our show, and what is funny is yesterday we literally had no topic, and we were just like, what are we going to do? I don't know. We'll talk about something. No, we'll do something. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. We got there.
We do find that really with a little guidance and a lot of freedom, we usually do pretty well.
I do better that way, girl.
I know you do.
Don't tell me what to say.
No, I would never dream of it. But if there's something you would love to hear us talk about, then just send us a little message at itwouldseemasthough@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Like our friend Lori Lee does.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lori Lee. I love having...
She's just now a part of the cast.
Yeah, she's just part of the cast. She's just a silent part.
When the credits roll, it's you, me, and Lori Lee.
There you go.
Oh, what a poem.
Oh, look at you.
I'm a poet.
Poetry. And we will be back next week because, again, we're in season 2.
Yep.
And we're just going to keep on chugging until
they can never stop us.
Until one of us is unable to speak.
Oh, man.
Or completely loses their mind.
Well, we're close.
Which, could happen any minute now. So, that's it.
All right, see you later, whores.
Bye.
It would seem as though...